Constructicons, merge for the kill!
Cup, Hot Rod, look!
Devastator.
Prepare for extermination!
Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, Entertainment and Media. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Well, a few videos back, I did say that I was going to devote some content to the combiners from the 1980s Transformers series. That was a meaningful time for me as I was transitioning from being a youngster into being a middle schooler and then into high school. Well, there was a stretch in my life where I came home and watched cartoons like the Transformers and G.I. Joe and Thundercats and the Silverhawks and the Beverly Hills Teens and those kinds of things. Oh, before I go on, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to make a donation to the channel, that information is below in the description box. And also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. Okay, back to it. And so, you know, one of the first, I think the first live stream I did on this channel was a look back at the 1986 Transformers movie. So there will always be a place in my heart for that cartoon and those characters and the people who voiced them and the subplots and the stories. To this day, there are some things that I remember verbatim about that cartoon. I had some of the toys. I had about 3 of the Constructicons. I didn't have enough to form Devastator, but I will get to that later on. But this short video, hopefully a short video, will be a short look back at the 6-member Decepticon team, the Constructicons, and the robot they combined to form, which was Devastator.
And you can't deny it! Megatron! You got it all wrong!
We're still working for you, and for the glory of the Decepticons.
You see, we eavesdropped on their plans. Plans to build a whopper solar tower that'd produce megawatts of energy. Energy we could use to destroy the Autobots. Get it? Get it? Perhaps this can be used to our advantage.
Now, I'm looking at a link right now in Google. The Transformers have their own set of links and pages on Google, and it looks like there were multiple continuities, or there were multiple iterations of the Constructicons, and I imagine that's so for other characters in this franchise. But I'm going to focus on the iteration of them from the 1980s cartoon. So the Constructicons were a team of robots who transformed into construction vehicles. They were all, I'll call them lime green, with a dash of purple or dark purple, and of course they all wore the Decepticon insignia. Some of them had mouths, some of them did not. They had more robot-like faces. They all had red eyes, like the Decepticons do, and the team consisted of the following. There was Scrapper, and I'm going to read this verbatim here. Scrapper usually was the leader, a modest but masterful designer. He was a front-end loader. That's what he transformed into. Bone Crusher. was a destructive berserker, a bulldozer, and I guess later a front end loader. Scavenger was the materials detector with some major self-esteem issues. He was a power shovel. Mixmaster was a manic and somewhat crazed chemist. He was a cement mixer. That's what he transformed into. Hook was a snobbishly perfectionist engineer. He transformed into a crane. And Long Haul was a hard-working transporter who longs to be on the battlefield, and he was a dump truck. So those are the 6 Constructicons, and once again, Scrapper was usually the leader. I thought he had a similar voice to one of the Insecticons. It was a high-pitched, grady voice, and I do remember Hook being arrogant and snobbish, and I think I'm going to get to that in one of my recollections, but that's the team. That's the Constructicons.
We're stuck. Relax, Grapple and Hoist. We're not your enemies. Megatron knows nothing of our meeting with you.
Wait. Let's hear what the Constructicon has to say.
It's simple. If we wanted to destroy you, you'd be 10 feet under by now.
And we could still finish the job.
None of that, Bone Crusher. We've got no grievances against these two.
Now, I can't recall, it's probably somewhere here on this page, when the Constructicons actually showed up. I do remember at some point seeing the commercial for their toys, and then Hasbro and Marvel simultaneously introduced them into the cartoon. After doing some research here, they were a team. They had been on Cybertron for numerous years, and then Megatron brought them to Earth. But they gradually got woven into the storyline, and they were usually involved in some sort of construction project. Now, in terms of when the Constructicons made their first appearance, it might have occurred before this, but the episode that stands out to me is the Master Builders, which was a part of season 2, and that was actually episode 12. It focused largely on 2 Autobots, Grapple and Hoist. Now, interestingly, the Autobots in their team/army, they had a number of scientists and builders and innovators and just team members who could build and create and repair things. So I thought that was interesting, being a STEM guy and having a science background myself. So Grapple, who transformed into a crane himself, he was an innovator/builder and a STEM guy, and he was always coming up with ideas. And in this episode, he came up with the idea for a solar power tower. So the writers of the series were already thinking about being environmentally friendly. They were thinking 20 years down the road. So Grapple creates this miniature of his solar power tower, and he's proud of it. And he shows Optimus Prime, and he says, "Hey, I think I can build this on a large scale, and this would address a lot of our energy needs." And Optimus Prime looks at it and he says, "Hey, that's a good idea, but I don't think you should build it, because if the Decepticons get their hands on it, that could go really, really badly for everyone." So Grapple is feeling down about it, and he goes off into seclusion. Hoist, his best friend, follows him and tries to console him. And as they're talking and deliberating over it, the Constructicons find them and eavesdrop on them. And they trap, grapple, and hoist, and convince them and manipulate them and seduce them into thinking that they will betray Megatron and build the solar power tower for the common good. And as if you haven't seen the episode, they go ahead and they reveal their treacherous nature, and they tell Megatron, yeah, we're going to get Grapple to help us build the solar power tower, Megatron, and after that we'll have a infinite source of energon cubes. So that's that episode, and that's my first time recalling the Constructicons showing up in the series.
Got a panel problem.
See? It's not a problem, Hook. This swivel allows the panel to track the sun.
Fabulous. But you'd better do a couple more of them. I don't think I've got it just yet. More panels, Long Haul, and be quick about it.
Get this. Bring that. I thought I was finally gonna build something. You are! You're building my greatest creation. I'm so excited, I'm shorting my own circuits. Monumental grapple. Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah, that was the episode. And in that episode, you got to see the Constructicons at work. You got to hear Long Haul bitching and complaining about not ever getting to build anything, just hauling things back and forth. So you really got to see the team at work and doing what they do, or doing what they did in that episode. And you also got to see their treachery because it was suspected they manipulated Hoist and Grapple, and also Megatron was concerned that they were turning against him too. So you never quite knew who the Constructicons were working for, and they were very, very manipulative, and I'll just say manipulative.
Wait, the Constructicons formed Devastator, the most powerful robot. We should rule.
Soundwave superior. Constructicons inferior.
Now, the Constructicons, they formed Devastator, and I think this was either after Voltron or this was alongside Voltron, because I think I just remember Voltron, which is a separate cartoon, being the first combiner, and then when the Transformers started doing it too, it was like, whoa, the Transformers have combiners too. So the Constructicons formed Devastator, Scrapper and Bone Crusher were the legs, Long Haul was the lower torso, Hook was the shoulders and the head, and then Bone Crusher and Scrapper were the arms. What I will say about Devastator is that while he was large and imposing, he usually lost his battles, particularly against other combiners. I'm thinking about Starscream's brigade. He didn't put up much of a fight against Bruticus. Shout out to Ron Algar Watt, who himself is another Transformers enthusiast and content creator. He has a retrospective in his library on the episode Starscream's Brigade, where Devastator squares off against Bruticus, and Ron jokingly says that Devastator once again did his suck and lose trick. So Devastator, he was in large part a bully. He was there for intimidation, but he always underperformed. And he always, when he went up against other combiners, and even I think when he went up against Omega Supreme, he always underperformed. So those are my memories of Devastator.
Dinobots, Destroy Devastator. Me, Grimlock, love challenge.
As I talk about the Transformers combiners, the latter groups always had an equal and opposite foe. So, as I'll discuss, the aerial bots had the Stunticons, and the Protectobots had the Combaticons, even though I don't remember Defensor and Bruticus ever squaring off against one another. And then the Omnibots had the Terrorcons. But the Constructicons didn't have an opposing group of combiners on the Autobot side. And the way the writers wrote it up, it seemed that their natural foe was the Dinobots. And the writers never wrote up the Dinobots to be combiners themselves. But I recall that the Constructicons were always squaring off against the Dinobots, and they showed that to us in the 1986 Transformers movie when Optimus Prime comes to Autobot City to save the day. He dispatches the Dinobots to, as he said, destroy Devastator. And you could argue, if I recall correctly, I think they might have squared off against Devastator might have squared off against Omega Supreme a couple of times, but those were their foes, their arch enemies. They didn't have another team of combiners per se that they regularly matched up against.
Well, as Megatron has, how shall we say, departed, I nominate myself as the new leader.
Wait, the Constructicons form Devastator, the most powerful robot. We should rule.
Soundwave superior, Constructicons inferior.
Who are you calling inferior? Nobody would follow an uncharismatic bore like you.
Hey, nobody calls Soundwave uncharismatic. Yeah, let's kick tailgate.
Constructicons unite!
I'm going to close this with a few memorable lines, and I'm going to pull these. The few that are fresh in my mind are from the 1986 Transformers movie. I'm thinking back to the group after the actually during the siege of Autobot City, the Constructicons form. And then Devastator says to the Autobots who are fighting for their lives, prepare for extermination. And then after the battle, the Decepticons are traveling back to Cybertron on Astro Train, and Starscream seizes the moment to get rid of Megatron, who's been mortally wounded in the battle with Optimus Prime. And then so Starscream discards Megatron and many of the other mortally wounded Decepticons, and then a squabble breaks out between the remaining Decepticons about who would be the new leader. Obviously, Starscream proposes himself, and then the Constructicons jump in, led by Scrapper, who says, the Constructicons form Devastator, the most powerful robot. We should rule. And then Soundwave jumps in and says, Soundwave superior, Constructicons inferior. And then Hook and I think Bone Crusher jump up and say, who are you calling inferior? No one would follow an uncharismatic bore like you. And then Rumble says, hey, no one calls Soundwave uncharismatic. And then this whole melee breaks out. But those are some memorable lines from the Constructicons, aside from their lines in their individual episodes in the cartoon series. And I also want to give a nod to the writers of that cartoon, the dialogue, the interaction between the characters, whether it was the Autobots and the Decepticons, or the two groups dealing with each other internally. the writing was brilliant, especially on the Decepticon side, when they would squabble with each other, and just the humor of it, the cleverness of the writing. It was awesome. And I think that's it. I think I'll wrap this up here. Those are my memories of the Constructicons and Devastator. I thought that I'm still playing with the formula on this channel, and it's an entertainment and media channel, and I have vivid and fond memories of the Transformers cartoon in the 1980s, and I thought it would be a fun series to look back at the combiners.
Ah, my loyal Constructicons! You are loyal, aren't you? No! You're traitors! And you can't deny it!
Megatron, you got it all wrong!
So with that, I'm going to stop this. Let me know if you have any memories of the Transformers combiners, or specifically of the Constructicons and Devastator. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to make a donation to the channel, that information is below in the description box. And also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC Newsletter. As they said, as both Optimus Prime and Rodimus Prime said at the end of the Transformers movie, until the day till all are one. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.